In our modern world, many of us are facing what psychologists and scientists call first world problems. These are not about survival, shelter, or food. They're about stress over unread messages, Wi-Fi speed, the latest phone, and feeling unseen in relationships. But what if I told you that these luxury level frustrations are stealing the very fuel you could be using to deepen love? Your brain is wired to solve problems, but it was designed for the kinds of challenges that meant life or death. Now, without those challenges, it misfires. It finds problems where there are none. And the easiest target? The people closest to you. Modern problems hijack emotional energy in ways we often don't realize. In a world overflowing with convenience, connection, and choice, our brains are constantly bombarded with micro stresses that seem small on the surface, but gradually drain our capacity to stay grounded, connected, and present, especially in our relationships. Take a simple example. Your partner doesn't reply to a message for hours. Logically, you know they might be busy, but emotionally, your mind starts racing. Are they ignoring me? Did I do something wrong? Why aren't I a priority? What's really happening is that your emotional energy is being hijacked by a modern problem, instant communication, and the expectations it creates. 100 years ago, people waited days or weeks for letters. Today, 3 gray dots on a screen can dictate your mood. The brain is designed to respond to threats. For most of human history, those threats were physical and immediate. Wild animals, famine, rival tribes. But now that we've largely removed those threats, the brain hasn't evolved to just relax. It searches for conflict, discomfort, and imbalance in our digital, social, and relational environments. So when your partner doesn't react the way you hoped, when someone unfollows you on social media, or when you're not invited to a group dinner, you feel it, not just mentally, physically, emotionally, deeply. That's your brain responding to a perceived threat, even though it's a threat shaped by comfort, not survival. The problem is, emotional energy is limited. Every moment you spend spiraling in a narrative based on modern discomfort is energy not spent understanding, listening, or connecting. You're reacting instead of reflecting. And it's costly. Imagine waking up with a full emotional tank. You spend some of it scrolling social media and comparing yourself to people you don't know. You use more of it stressing over a delayed text or a coworker's passive-aggressive message. By the time your partner wants to have a real conversation or needs your presence, you're running on empty. You're agitated, distracted, or withdrawn. And you don't even know why. This is how love quietly erodes. Not through big fights or betrayals, but through small, daily drains of emotional attention misdirected at the wrong targets. We start using the people we love as emotional punching bags because we're too depleted to regulate ourselves. Modern problems, though they appear minor, trigger ancient responses in the brain. And unless we are conscious of this, we become slaves to every notification, every delay, every unmet expectation. It takes awareness to stop this pattern. Emotional energy is like currency. You wouldn't spend your last savings on something meaningless, so why do we waste emotional strength on digital slights, passive comparison, or internal drama over things we can't control? Because it's easier than doing the real work. It's easier to be offended than to be vulnerable, easier to be reactive than reflective. But easy isn't free. It costs us love, presence, and growth. The challenge of our time isn't just to survive, but to stay emotionally sovereign in an age that wants to pull us in 1,000 directions. To conserve your emotional energy is to protect the space where love grows. It means learning to pause before reacting, to choose silence over impulse, to ground yourself when everything around you is designed to unground you. And when you start doing that, when you reclaim your attention and spend it where it truly matters, you begin to see that love is not found in more comfort or connection. It's found in depth, and depth requires energy. Our brains are built for survival, not constant ease. For thousands of years, the human brain evolved in a world where life was unpredictable, challenging, and often dangerous. Every neural pathway was forged in response to struggle, hunting for food, escaping predators, enduring cold winters, surviving sickness. The human experience was defined by discomfort, and the brain became exceptionally good at helping us adapt, problem solve, and persist. But modern life, with all its advancements and convenience, inconveniences has disrupted that relationship. We've removed many of the physical threats and replaced them with comfort, but our brains haven't caught up. They're still scanning for danger, still looking for conflict, still preparing for a battle that rarely comes. This mismatch creates tension. When the brain doesn't find real threats, it creates perceived ones. A late reply to a text becomes a rejection. A critical comment feels like a personal attack. A moment of boredom becomes unbearable. We weren't built for a world where food is delivered, attention is constant, and discomfort is optional. And yet, we live in that world every day. The result? Our minds become hyperactive, anxious, and overreactive. Not because life is harder, but because our brains don't know what to do with all this ease. Ease was never meant to be permanent, it was meant to be earned. In the past, rest followed effort. Reward followed risk. Now we often experience reward without challenge. Entertainment on demand, dopamine hits from notifications, convenience at every turn. The problem is that the brain still seeks meaning, and meaning rarely comes from comfort. It comes from overcoming, from resilience, from the grind. And when those challenges are absent, the brain begins to break down under its own restlessness. What we call stress today is often just the brain reacting to a lack of real problems. We worry about things that would have seemed laughable to our ancestors, not getting enough likes, being ghosted, having to wait an extra minute for our coffee. These aren't true threats, but our brains can't tell the difference because those neural circuits for survival are still active. They fire even when the stakes are low. This is why a small inconvenience can ruin your whole day. It's not weakness, it's biology out of sync with reality. To thrive in the modern world, we need to train our brains to handle ease. That sounds ironic, but it's true. It means deliberately introducing friction, choosing discomfort, taking on challenges, embracing boredom, doing the harder thing when the easier option is available. It means recognizing that convenience isn't always good for us. It often robs us of the very things that make us strong: patience, grit, perspective. When everything comes too easily, we forget how to cope when it doesn't. That's why so many people crumble under pressure, lash out in relationships, or feel lost even when nothing is wrong. The brain, once finely tuned for survival, now malfunctions in a sea of comfort. The answer isn't to go back to the Stone Age. The answer is to build modern resilience, to train the mind, just like the body, to stay grounded, focused, and capable even when the world offers a way out. We have to remember what the brain was designed for. It was built to endure, to adapt, to learn from failure. If we don't give it those opportunities, it will invent problems just to stay active. That's not peace. That's chaos disguised as comfort. The real path forward is to stop avoiding discomfort and start using it. To grow, to connect, to wake up the parts of ourselves that ease has put to sleep. Because when the brain is challenged, it doesn't just survive. Emotional triggers are invitations, not threats. When we feel hurt, rejected, unseen, or misunderstood, our first instinct is usually to defend, withdraw, or react. It's easy to believe that these emotional reactions are signals of danger, proof that something is wrong, either with the other person or with ourselves. But the truth is, these reactions are not meant to be warnings to run away. They are calls to go deeper. Emotional triggers point us to something unresolved, something unhealed, something that wants our attention, not our avoidance. In relationships, the most difficult moments are often the most meaningful. When someone says something that stings, when silence feels heavy, when a small comment ignites a big reaction, those moments are not always about the present situation. They are echoes of past experiences, old wounds, or unmet needs. The brain records emotional pain much like physical pain. So when we're triggered, it's not just about now, it's about then. But that's exactly why these triggers matter. They reveal where growth is possible. Most people are afraid of emotional discomfort. They see it as a sign to shut down or lash out. But if we look closer, a trigger is simply a spotlight. It shines on what still holds power over us. That might be the fear of abandonment, the need to be perfect, the craving for validation, or the pain of feeling unworthy. And every time we're triggered, the brain is offering us a mirror, not to shame ourselves, but to become aware. Because without awareness, we repeat the same cycles, blame the same people, and carry the same emotional weight year after year. It takes courage to sit with a trigger, to feel the discomfort without numbing it, escaping it, or projecting it onto someone else. But when we do, we reclaim our emotional power. We begin to understand ourselves at a deeper level. We learn that pain is not punishment, it's information. And that information is valuable. It tells us what we care about. It tells us where we're still healing. It tells us what boundaries we need to build or what narratives we need to let go of. The beauty of emotional triggers is that they often show up in love. Not because love is unsafe, but because love is intimate. It touches the most sensitive parts of who we are. That's why people closest to us can trigger us the most. They unknowingly activate old fears we've buried. And when that happens, it's tempting to blame them, to say, you made me feel this way. But emotional maturity comes from asking, why did that affect me so deeply? The answer is always inside. By choosing to see emotional triggers as invitations, we give ourselves the chance to evolve. Instead of pushing pain away, we welcome it as a teacher. That doesn't mean tolerating harm or dismissing your feelings. It means holding space for them, being curious about them, and allowing them to guide you to something deeper within yourself. Growth never happens in ease. It happens when we're willing to meet discomfort with compassion and clarity. The next time you feel triggered, pause, breathe, notice what story your mind is telling. Ask yourself where you've felt that way before. Then, instead of reacting, choose to respond. With understanding, with reflection, with intention. That's the difference between staying stuck in cycles and stepping into transformation. Emotional triggers are not enemies. They are signals. And when we learn to listen, they become one of the most powerful tools for healing, connection, and self-awareness. Use your discomfort consciously because it holds more power than you realize. Discomfort is not the enemy, it's the signal. It's the flashing light that tells you something important is happening beneath the surface. Most people try to escape it, numb it, distract themselves, or push it down. But discomfort, when met with awareness instead of avoidance, becomes a tool. It reveals what matters. It points to your values, your fears, your wounds, and your desires. And if you're paying attention, it can guide your next move with clarity and purpose. When you feel discomfort in a conversation, it's tempting to shut down or lash out. When someone's words stir up insecurity, your instinct might be to defend yourself or distance from them. But what if you paused instead? What if you asked yourself why this feeling hit so hard? That tension in your chest, the knot in your stomach, the sudden urge to change the subject, those are clues. They're not random. They're data from your nervous system, inviting you to explore what's really going on inside. It might be a boundary you haven't set, a fear you haven't named, a truth you've been avoiding. Discomfort can lead you to it, if you let it. Most people think discomfort is something to get through quickly. We power through awkward moments, stuff down anger, laugh off sadness. We call it strength, but often it's just fear in disguise. True strength is presence. Is being able to sit with the heat, the heaviness, the edge of a feeling without running away from it. That's how we become emotionally mature. That's how we stop reacting on autopilot and start responding with awareness. Discomfort gives you the opportunity to slow down, reflect, and respond with intention rather than impulse. Every meaningful decision in life carries discomfort. Setting a boundary feels hard. Saying no feels uncomfortable. Telling the truth when it might disappoint someone, that's a heavy moment. But these are the moments that shape you. They carve out your identity. And when you lean into them consciously, you start building self-trust. You start recognizing your own capacity to handle life's emotional weight. And you stop looking to the outside world to keep you comfortable because you've learned how to stay grounded inside yourself. Even in love, discomfort plays a role. You might feel uneasy when you're about to say something vulnerable. You might feel anxious after opening up. But these are not signs something is wrong. These are signs you're stretching. You're showing up honestly. You're not trying to control every outcome. You're allowing something real to unfold. Relationships without discomfort are not strong. They're simply untested. Discomfort reveals depth, and depth reveals whether the bond can withstand truth, change, and growth. Using discomfort consciously means allowing it to speak, but not letting it take control. It's learning to sit with the emotion, ask what it wants to show you, and then choosing how you act, not based on fear or habit, but based on clarity. It's a practice. It requires patience. But over time, this practice becomes your power. You stop fearing hard moments. You stop seeing discomfort as a threat. You start welcoming it as the beginning of something meaningful. Life is filled with moments that will stretch you. Some will feel sharp, others subtle, but none are wasted if you meet them with awareness. Your discomfort, when used consciously, becomes the edge of transformation. It's the path to knowing yourself better, showing up more fully, and living more honestly. Instead of numbing or running, lean in, feel it, learn from it, then decide deliberately, consciously, how to move forward. That's how you turn discomfort from a burden into a guide.